Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on the elements of financial wellness for the folks at Boston Children's Hospital. And we're really delighted that you are taking some time today to think about your financial wellness. And this webinar is it's for anyone who, have you ever felt as though other people were given some kind of financial knowledge or secrets growing up that you didn't get? I know the feeling. Don't worry, we can learn it together. And we're going to kind of go over what does it mean to have financial wellness. So before we get into the meat of it, I just want to do a little housekeeping. Today we are in webinar format, and that means for all of you attendees, we can't see you and we can't hear you, so you can go ahead and eat your lunch, take care of whatever you need to do in the background. That's fine. But we do want you to participate actively in this webinar if you can. So we're going to ask you to put any questions that you have into the Q&A feature of Zoom. Sometimes on your toolbar where it has the mute button and everything, you have to go into the More section on the far right side to see Q&A. Depends on how your screen is set up. So if you do need to do that, go ahead. You can drop a question into the Q&A at any time it occurs to you, and we might get to them a little bit later, or you might answer it in the moment, depending. But you can go ahead and go in now and drop into the Q&A where you're joining us from. We love to see that, where our participants are from, and anything else you want us to know. This presentation is being recorded. It will be posted on our YouTube. And we are going to ask you to complete a survey and let us know how we did. You're also going to get all these slides, so you don't need to take notes or that kind of thing. I mean, feel free, but you will receive them in your email because you registered for this webinar. So just to introduce myself, my name is Jen Fries. I am the Community Engagement Manager for the Harvard Federal Credit Union. And those initials after my name mean that I am a certified credit union financial counselor. And I'm joined by Ty Coppelson from my team, also a certified counselor and community engagement specialist. And many of you may also know Terrence Bazile. Together, our team does a lot of these webinars, workshops. We do in-person workshops, we do webinars. We also, you might see us out doing tabling or that kind of thing at events. So we love to meet people in the community. Reach out to us if you want us to do something with your group, and we can try and make it happen. And we're part of the commitment, I guess, that the credit union has generally to financial wellness. So it's relevant to today's topic. A little bit about the credit union. For those of you who don't know, I know a lot of you on here are members of Harvard Federal Credit Union. Some of you may know us by our old name, Harvard University Employees Credit Union. That's the same. We just have the new name now. We are the Harvard FCU now. What is the difference between a credit union and a bank? Well, we do all the banking services, but we do it in a way that's not for profit. And we are owned by our members, not by shareholders. So we don't have to make a profit to give to shareholders off of you. And we're just trying to provide the best services, products, low fees for our members, because we're all about being here for our members in our community. Once you join, even if you leave the hospital, you are a member for life. So you can always reopen your account later or just keep your account open. It's not something that when you leave, you have to, leave the credit union and all the great benefits that we have. So we have all the regular checking account savings, credit cards, mortgages, including mass housing mortgages if you're looking for some assistance with buying a home, and we have some webinars about that. One of the benefits that people love is that if you use an ATM anywhere in nationwide and they charge you a fee, we refund that fee. So you shouldn't be having to pay any fees to use ATMs, which is great. And then we do have several convenient locations. I'm going to talk about our newest branch later. And of course, we have the app and the mobile banking, and Those are all available to you to make it convenient for you to bank anytime, anywhere. So, all right, now getting to financial wellness. So this presentation is going to go over some of the basics and some of the more complicated aspects of financial wellness. But I do want to acknowledge that money is personal. So your goals are not the same as my goals. And what it will look like for you to have financial wellness, there's some things that I think anyone who has financial wellness is going to have going on, and we're going to talk about those. But a lot of the other pieces are personal. It's going to look like what you want in your life. So for example, right now, one of my goals is saving for a new car. I have a 2013 Prius. It's still running. It's relatively low mileage considering it's 2013, but I know that it won't run forever. And so right now I am saving as much as I can because I would love to either pay cash for a new car or, depending when it happens, just have a larger down payment. So that is one of my goals. I also have some retirement goals. And you, depending where you are in your life, and you personally, you are going to have your own goals. So I encourage you to take a moment now to write down your goals if you haven't done that before. Or if you even want to drop them into the Q&A, we would love to address them as we go along. So, all right. So now, one of the things we want to do in this webinar is talk about some common phrases that people throw around but never actually tell you what they mean. So one of those phrases is living below your means. You may have heard, especially like your elders or someone like that, talking about living below your means. What is that? Living below your means just simply means that your monthly costs for all of your bills and what you're paying is less than what you actually are bringing in, so that you have money. So if you're living on what we might suggest 70 to 80% of your current salary, and you set up your life so that that is possible, then you have between 20 and 30% to either pay toward debt if you're in need to pay down debt, or to save, and or to do both. And we'll talk about the order of those things and how you might prioritize them later. So that 20 to 30%, which is represented by like the yellow and the red, the top three lines of squares, is going to go to debt repayment, savings, and investments. You may also have heard the phrase pay yourself first, and that's another similar phrase that's thrown around a lot. What pay yourself first means is that when you get paid, or when you get your monthly income in, however it comes in, that you right off the top put money into savings or paying off debt. And that should be the first thing out of your paycheck. That's why you're paying yourself your savings first. Some of that might be money that's taken out just automatically because you've set it for retirement too, and we'll talk about that as well. We do recommend that you set up auto transfer for your savings so that it's happening automatically, either auto transfer or in your direct deposit. You can set it up so that I know in my direct deposit, 10% automatically goes into my savings account, my high yield savings at the credit union. And the other 90% goes into my checking account, and I'm, might be using that for bills or other things. And that's in addition to what I'm putting into my retirement. So that's how I do it. I do it through direct deposit, but you can also do that auto transfer like every week or every month, however it makes sense for you. Now, I do want to acknowledge that there may be times in your life when, in any of our lives, there's going to be times when you can save more and times when you're not in a position to be saving. And that's okay. These are guidelines. These are just some things to think about that are going to help you move down the road. But I do want to just put these out there, and then we'll talk a little bit about some strategies as well to try and get you there. So I don't want anyone to feel like, oh, this is not for me because there's no way I can possibly do this. We'll talk a little bit about that and ways that you might get yourself there. So one of the really common questions we get all the time is that people have competing priorities. So I have a lot of debt, or I'm trying to pay off student loans or credit cards or other debt. And then, well, how can I possibly save? So we're going to go into a suggested way to prioritize, but I do want to just acknowledge that what we're going to ask you to do or to think about is to do some of both. So you might be prioritizing one more heavily, but it is important to be saving regularly, even if it's a small amount, and even if a lot of your money is going to debt repayment, because otherwise, when you get to a point where you have an emergency happen, you don't have any savings to fall back on, and you just end up increasing the credit card debt. So if you're living on 70 to 80% of what you make every month, and you have that 20 to 30%, or if it's a smaller amount, how should you direct it? So let's talk about that. We can never know the future. All we can know is how to prepare ourselves for ups and downs that might be coming. There's always going to be ups and downs financially in our lives. So we call this slide the waterfall slide because I want you to picture that you're starting at the top, and then as you have extra money, it's going down, the water is flowing downhill. So a lot of times when we do presentations, people are talking to us about investing, but they don't have an emergency fund yet. So we wanted to talk about the order of operations and where you're going to start, and how you're going to get to the place at the bottom where maybe you are investing more heavily. So the very first thing is that you need to be covering your monthly expenses. So if you are in a situation where your monthly expenses exceed your income, that is somewhat of an emergency situation, and you do need to look at ways to increase your income or reduce your expenses. And I know, you're probably well aware of this, but it might involve something as serious as getting a roommate, living on one car instead of two for a while. It might be something small like doing a no spend month where you're really trying not to spend any money except for on essentials. It might be through increasing your income. Maybe you work full time, but maybe on the weekend you could do a little babysitting or drive for a ride share or something like that and get some extra money that will allow you to have that extra 20 to 30%. So there are different strategies, and go ahead and put, if you know of a particular strategy that's working for you, you can put it in the Q&A. Once you are covering your monthly expenses and you have extra money, then you're going to start an emergency fund. And when we say start, so that first goal is to save up typically 1 month's rent or 1 month's mortgage in your emergency fund. So you're going to keep saving for however long it takes until you have 1 month in the bank. And that's the start of your emergency fund. Different people that might need more or less, but that's a good start and will allow you, if you have a small emergency or bigger emergency, to have a little breathing room. The next step that we recommend that you do once you have that 1 month of emergency fund is that you start setting it up so you get your full employer match for retirement. So many employers, such as Boston Children's Hospital, give you a certain amount that they will match if you put it into your retirement. So if you put 1% into your retirement, they'll put 1%, meaning you put $1 and they'll put $1. You just made 100% on your money. You never get that kind of investment return on almost anything else. To get 100% immediately is crazy. So you really don't want to leave that on the table. So that is really your first priority after you get the emergency fund 1 month set up. Then make sure you're getting your employer match, whatever it is. Sorry, I did not check ahead of time, but I want to say many employers, it's like 4 or 5%. If you put that amount of your salary into your retirement as savings every month, they will match it. And it does also reduce your taxable income on the other side. So that can be helpful for some people. So you're going to put that amount into your retirement to at least get the match. So you're not putting the maximum into your retirement at that point. You're putting the minimum to get the match. Then once you're doing that, then you're going to start tackling paying off high interest debt more aggressively. So all along, when you're covering your monthly expenses, you're at least doing that minimum payment. And but now you're going to start to roll more money in to try and pay off that high interest debt, so you're not carrying it forever. Because if you only pay the minimums, you will be in debt for the rest of your life, and it can be really debilitating. So when you have a little bit of extra money, then you're going to start putting it into your high interest debt. And I would say right now it's anything over like 7%, maybe. I would consider high interest debt. So you don't typically try and aggressively pay down if you have, if you're one of the lucky people who got your mortgage at one of the really low rates. Like, I wouldn't aggressively pay that down. I just pay it at the regular rate. But if you have credit card debt, that typically is almost always high interest debt. And then some other debt like getting a car loan or something like that may also be high interest. Private student loans may be high interest. Typically, the federal ones are not. But so that's sort of the next thing that you're going to work on. Once you have paid off your high interest debt, and remember, these steps may take months, years, and either way, you're still improving your financial wellness all along the way. Then you are going to increase your emergency fund. The typical recommendations is to have about 3 to 6 months in your emergency fund. And we're going to talk about later where you will put that, like where your emergency fund should live. But it really depends on your circumstances. For a while, I was a single parent, and so I had a higher emergency fund that I worked toward because I didn't have a lot of leeway. If you have 2 incomes in your house, maybe you go more toward just the 3 months of emergency fund, or if you're a very risk averse person, maybe you do more. I know people who put a year's in the emergency fund. Maybe they work in a volatile industry where there are a lot of layoffs, and they feel like that's really important for them to have some, leeway. So it really depends on your circumstances, but you certainly want to have some substantial money in there, and it will give you so much peace of mind. The difference between being able to pull something out of your emergency fund when you need it and having to turn to credit cards is just huge. And you will thank yourself later, because there will always be a time when you do need to tap into your emergency fund for some reason. Then once you've covered all of those and the water's flown all the way downhill, that's when you're going to think about more investing. That this is very simplified, so that could just be putting, a lot more money investing in your retirement fund within that sort of vessel, or it might mean investing outside of it. We're going to talk about how you can learn about that and how you can start investing if you're interested. Okay, so thank you for the people who put in some of their goals. We heard about home ownership, paying off student loans, paying off some other debts. So all those are great. And we have a question about how many checking and savings accounts should we have? Okay, so your basic emergency account should be what's called a high yield savings account. You can Google and find out the rates at any banks or credit unions around. Of course, we recommend the Harvard Federal Credit Union. We have a high yield savings account called Smart Rewards Savings. If you have Smart Rewards Savings and checking account with us, you actually even earn interest on your checking account, which is amazing. I've never had that really in my life. So, but the basic thing is that it should be in an account, credit union or bank savings account, that is insured. All of our savings accounts are fully insured. That is liquid. That means it's not an investment. It's not something you need to sell or could crash. It's cash money, and it's accessible to you. So you have it when it's there, you need it. You're paying yourself first. And now, as far as the question that someone put in about how many should you have, I think it's pretty common to have more than one savings account. Like, I could have a separate savings account that I call my car savings. And Ty, I don't know if you want to speak to this, because you had a really nice savings account for a while that was for a separate goal.
Yeah, that's right. So sometimes it's really nice to set up a like a secondary savings just for a specific long-term like savings goal. There's a couple reasons that this is good, but I got married last October and we were saving for our honeymoon. And so we set up a whole separate savings account. We named it honeymoon, and then we put in a certain amount into that account every month. And this is great for a couple of reasons. First of all, when you get paid, like your paycheck comes in, you can transfer some money directly into that savings, and you know where it's going, and you know it's separate from the rest of your savings or the rest of your bill payments and things like that, which can, if there's a lot of things coming into one account, or it's a little bit more um, like general for a lot of different things, it's harder to know and single out specifically funds or savings that you've put aside for a specific reason. So having an account that's just for that savings and putting money in there is really great. And then when you name the account, in this instance, and name the account honeymoon, if you find that your expenses are really high in a month and you need to take money from somewhere or find a way to save extra or lower expenses, if you're just taking money from savings to cover expenses and it's just a non-named savings account, then it's the mental shortcut there is like, oh, I'm just taking money from savings because I have to in this moment. And it's easier to do that. But if you want to make it harder to take money from savings to cover things mentally, because sometimes you don't want to be taking money from savings, you want to be adjusting some other things, then when I would be taking money from that account to pay a bill or to do something with, I'd be taking money directly from Honeymoon, and that felt bad. So it was a higher chance that we would try to adjust our spending in other ways rather than taking money directly from our honeymoon fund that's named Honeymoon right there, and find a different way to do it. So a lot of different mental shortcuts, a lot of different ways that make it really nice, actually.
That's a great motivational tip, Ty. And I will also mention, as far as checking accounts go, I think it's really common that people might have two checking accounts, especially if you're in a couple and you're sharing expenses. Not every couple does it this way, but one really common way that people do it is that if you're both working, you're both getting your paychecks into your own accounts, and then you have a bill account, and each month people transfer money in. However, like, some couples just do this 50-50. I think it's also really common that people do it proportionally. If one person's making more, that they put in
Hmm.
a little bit higher proportion of their salary into the bills account, and together you transfer in enough every month to pay your bills, so then you know that, like, all the stuff can be paid out of there. So those are just some things that we see really commonly. Of course, you could do it for another reason too. I have a shared account with my kid, and that makes it easy for me to transfer money in for their needs, and so lots of
Yeah.
reasons why you might do it. So okay, great. Okay, so now we're going to talk about lifestyle creep. And that's another phrase you might heard of. You might not know exactly what it means. Lifestyle creep is when you get a raise, but it's immediately eaten up because you feel like you should, well, now I should have a nicer car. I shouldn't be driving around this 2013 Prius, and I buy a car before I'm ready, or something like that. Like, so you're letting your lifestyle, like, even though you get a raise, your expenses maybe get even higher than your raise. Like, so you're worse off after you get a raise. So one of the things that I definitely recommend that you think about is that when you get a raise, that that's a great time to put extra money into your savings or toward your goals, if that may be paying off debt. It's a somewhat painless way to do it. So it's a little annoying because you get the raise and then you don't really see it. But you do see it as it starts, as your savings start boosting up or your debt starts going down. And it can be very motivating to watch that. So right away, going into your direct deposits or your auto transfers and adjusting it when you're getting a raise. And then resisting the temptation to feel like you have to keep up with people and make a big purchase just because you. And I also see this really commonly when people get their first job. I used to work with a lot of people who, kids who were going into construction. It was really common to buy a new truck when they got their first job, but they really didn't have the money to pay for. These trucks are quite expensive. Like, so that's something I would always try and talk to people about. Like, hold off, If you don't need it, sometimes they're going to the same job every day and they could literally get there on the T. And I'm like, wait until you have saved enough. Don't get $60,000 into debt, $90,000 into debt for this lovely truck. Um, so when you get that increase again, just make those adjustments. Say, oh, now I'm going to put an extra 1% toward my salary, toward my retirement. And go ahead and make those adjustments. Maybe you let yourself keep 1% of the raise and the rest you put into that. So if you want to feel like you have a little extra money. So I know that there's a lot of inflation right now, for instance, so people might feel like they can't give it all up, but maybe you can give part of it into your goals. If that makes sense. So just to talk a little bit about budgeting. The most common budget framework or way to think about a budget is the 50-30-20 budget. There are some other ways. We have a whole video about budgeting, but this is a really common one that makes sense to a lot of people. And this is where you aim to keep all of your essentials, your fixed costs, like your rent and mortgage, your medical expenses, your travel, your car payment or your T-Pass, all of your essentials at 50% of your budget. And then your wants, also sometimes known as flexible spending, because it's not necessarily something you can cut out entirely because it's stuff like eating, however, it is pretty variable because I could eat and spend a lot by dining out. I could go to Summer Shack tonight and, get lobster and spend a lot. I could cook at home and spend much less. That would be typically 30% is what you're going to aim for. And you do want to have some fun and some things that are enjoyable that you're building into your budget every month or every week, however you like to do your budgeting. And then finally, 20% toward, again, savings or goals. So this framework, we talked about living below your means could be 20 to 30% even. So this framework suggests 20% towards savings and paying down debt. So I think we have an example here that's based on a lot of Harvard graduate students get $50,000 in net pay. So we have an example here where therefore their essentials will be $2,083. Obviously, if you're in that situation, you're in a situation where you probably need roommates if you're in the Boston area. But so it's just realizing sort of it can help you frame what is affordable for you and maybe what is not. And it's all up to you. Again, money is personal. You might not use these percentages exactly, or you might say, I consider this thing an essential that maybe someone else wouldn't. And that's okay. So it is up to you. But in the end, you want to make sure that you are keeping some significant percentage for your goals, whether those be saving or paying off debt. So then managing debt, we talked about paying off high interest debt like credit cards, anything over 7%, I would say. I would consider right now to be high interest debt. But even I'm kind of aggressively paying. I have a home equity loan and I did some repairs and it's around 6% right now, but 6 point something. And I'm somewhat aggressively paying it off because I don't want to pay that interest and I don't necessarily have to. So it depends on what you have out there for your debt. We have a lot of webinars on our YouTube about debt repayment. So if you're facing heavy debt, really difficult debt, I want people on here to know that you are not alone. It has happened to all of us or many of us over the years that we have had experienced debt or trouble paying off debt. We are going to give you a resource right after this, the next slide, about getting help. If you're feeling like you're drowning, you're not alone. You can get help with making a budget and with paying off debt. But if you just kind of need a framework to operate under, the most important thing is you want to be paying more than the minimum. As I mentioned, if you're only paying the minimum to your credit cards, I mean, you do need to pay the minimum every month. I have that auto go out. Like it's very easy to set it up so that it auto pays the minimum, so I never miss a deadline. Then I go in and I actually literally pay off every month my credit card. That ideally you want to get to the point where you're doing that. Or if you're not in debt right now, that you set up that habit if you're, starting out with credit. If you're in a place though where you got to a point where you had a lot of debt and you racked it up and now you're paying it, in order to pay that off, you're going to need to pay more than the minimum, and you need to figure out how to free up some money or add income so that you can do that. And then, so say you're paying 250 extra a month. When one card gets paid off, then you roll that payment over into the next card. Like, don't say, oh, now I'm yay. If you still have other cards that need to be paid off, keep rolling it into the next one, because again, you're used to paying that. And then when they're all paid off, you can roll that right into your savings. So you know that that's a payment you make every month as part of your budget. So if you are someone who is struggling with debt, or you just want help, like I want help to actually do an individual budget for me, or I'm starting a new phase in my life, I'm getting married or whatever it may be, and I'd like to do a family budget for the first time. I want to save for a house and I want to budget for that. I want help with student loan counseling from certified federal student loan counseling folks. We have a partnership with GreenPath. They are a financial wellness nonprofit. So again, they're not trying to make a profit off of you. GreenPath is available and provides free financial counseling in many languages. And you can access that by going to our website and then going onto the GreenPath link. I think Ty's going to put that link into the chat, but it's here on the slide too. And remember, you'll get these slides. So this is just a service that's here for you. And one thing I want to make sure everybody knows is that you do not, thank you, Ty, you do not need to be a member of the credit union. So if you're on this webinar and you're like, oh, well, but I'm not part of Harvard FCU. First of all, we would love to have you, but even if you're not, that doesn't matter. By coming to this webinar, being part of the Boston Children's Hospital community, you have access to GreenPath services. So you just go through that link. They know that we referred you. You can get the free counseling. That's fine. And you can even share this link with your family. So if you have someone in your family who's struggling, this could be a first step. And they have extended business hours, again, more than one language, that they are, lots of languages that they provide services in. So please do reach out. You're not alone. And we are here for you. If you are a member of the credit union, you have access to something called Savvy Money, and that is a service that can help you improve your credit score. So it's very easy. I want to highlight it just for those people on the call who are members of the credit union. You do have to enroll, but it is free, literally free forever. Like you don't have to give a credit. It's not one of those things that's free until next year and they charge you. It's just we're providing it as part of the credit union. Otai put some more information, like if you want to check out the link in the chat. But basically in online banking and on the app, you can click into your credit score information. You get regular daily updates on if anything's changed in your credit report. And it can be very motivating as you pay off debt to see your credit score go up. And so I definitely recommend Savvy Money to you, that can be a fun way to almost gamify or make it more fun to pay off your debt. So that's something that's there for you. And many other banks or credit unions may have other similar services, so you can look into that as well. Okay, so then I want to talk just a little bit about retirement savings. Retirement savings should be part of your whole profile of savings. So you're not just doing emergency savings, you're also saving for your retirement. And if you're younger, you may be feeling like, oh, that's not even relevant to me. I don't need to know about that. Time is on your side. One of the sayings that people say a lot, and has proven to be true about investing, is that time in the market beats timing the market. So timing the market is when you're trying to get really smart about exactly where the market's going to go and making sure you have the right money moves at the right moment. time in the market is just like when you just regularly invest in your retirement over years and years and years, even if it's a small amount, it will start to compound, and it really grows by the time you want to retire. So the amount you put in versus the amount you know are able to take out in the end is it's a big difference. So it really makes sense to just stick to your investing strategy. And here, this is kind of an example that we use. It is important to know that starting early is really important. So we have this example of Iris and Lucas. They each invest $100 a month, but Iris starts when she's 25 in her retirement, investing $100 a month. Lucas doesn't start until he's 35. So you'll see they both have some, substantial savings by the time they retire. But Iris, in the end, even though it's been 10 years, has only put in 12,000 more than Lucas, but she has almost double the amount by the time that they retire. However, I don't want this to discourage anyone. If you're on this call and you're 35 and up, and you're like, oh no, I haven't started yet. You know what? It still applies, because starting today is better than starting tomorrow. I just want the moral of the story for everyone on here to know that investing even small amounts now is going to help you substantially later. And you're going to thank yourself later. So do make sure that you're putting money into your retirement. We talked about getting that minimum for the match, but then also increasing that number as you're getting closer to your savings goals. Maybe you have what you have in your need in your emergency savings. Maybe then one of your goals can really be bumping up your retirement savings. This is a slide with some advice. Again, common advice about retirement savings. One, at a minimum, try and get your employer match. This slide suggests 6% at least as a minimum to retirement. Again, different people are different in what your goals are, but certainly once you've got some of your debt paid off and your emergency fund going, yeah, I think that's a great minimum. Gradually increasing your contributions as you get raises. And this example says, like, say you got a 4% raise, put 2% more toward retirement and 2% toward current needs. And then target is going to vary depending on your goals. So say you're past that minimum and you're ready to do more, you might be doing up to like 15% of your income for retirement. Should set you up for success. And then you may have heard the word FIRE. That's another phrase that you might have heard thrown around, and you may or may not know what it is. FIRE is a phrase that refers to financial independence, retire early. So you may hear people say, well, I'm part of the FIRE movement, or I'm trying to FIRE. And it means that they're putting usually a much higher percentage of their income toward retirement. This is not available to all of us, but if you're someone, for instance, who's living at home and not paying a mortgage, living with parents in a multi-generational home or something like that, you may be able to put 50% away. Or if you have a very high income job, you're used to living on a grad student salary, but then, or a medical school salary, and suddenly you become a doctor and you're making big money. So you might be able to put large chunks away, and that you may value that, like being able to make a choice to retire early if you want. You're independent financially. But I just want to mention it. I personally have not done FIRE. I'm just on the regular schedule, but it is very comforting just that regularly I've invested in my retirement, and I get again, I don't want to scare anybody, but these are some suggestions, industry kind of common suggestions about how much you should have saved. I remember when I first encountered these, I think I was probably around 30 and I did not have half my salary saved. So I think that's pretty common. However, this is something to kind of keep in mind, to be able to know where you stand, and to make sure that you're going to have some ability to have financial wellness, including like fun choices in retirement. This may vary a little bit depending. Some of you may have pensions that you would receive. Some people are going to get Social Security. Some are going to have less Social Security or no eligibility for Social Security because they worked for the federal government or some other group that was exempted from Social Security. So you may have a spouse that also has a pension or other retirement. So it really varies, and that's why these numbers are pretty big differences. Like, however, this will kind of give you like a baseline, and you might say to yourself, well, I'm a little different because I know I'm getting a pension of this amount. Still, I want to aim for X, and I see I'm not there yet, so I'm going to try and increase my monthly retirement budget and what I'm putting in. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about investing. And again, you can be investing within your retirement. When you put money into your retirement, you're going to be saying what investments it goes towards. But you may also be investing just generally for whatever you want to be doing it for. So it doesn't have to be within the vehicle of a 401k or 403b. We do have an investment professional at the credit union, and I want to be clear, it is not me, just in case you have questions about the stuff. It's not me, it's not Ty. Dennis Sexton is our investment advisor. You can speak with Dennis for free and just get a check-in about your investing goals. He can help you create a plan, or he might just be a second set of eyes to look at, hey, this is how I'm doing things. Does this make sense? I don't know how to choose investments within my retirement plan. Dennis can help you with that. Dennis came to us from TIAA, so he has a lot of experience in choosing things within a retirement plan. But just a great resource for our members to be able to take advantage of. So this is here for you. Please take advantage of it. You can make an appointment with Dennis if you like, and do any of those things. We do also suggest once you're investing that you do periodic portfolio reviews and maintenance, usually like once a year. You don't need to be changing things too often. Again, staying the course is really more valuable over time. However, once a year is good because then you'll kind of look and say, oh, I had this lifestyle change, or maybe I have something different in my investing outlook now that I have a child, or my kids graduated from college, or I'm getting closer to retirement and maybe I don't want to be, I want to be in a less risky strategy because I really need this money in a shorter time frame. So Dennis is going to be able to help you protect your nest egg as it grows, help you check in on your investment mix and your performance. But you can also do this yourself, depending on how you feel about or you can do it with your own investment advisor as well. So it just, and often this is known as rebalancing, because I might either move money from one place to another and say I want less in stocks because that's more risky, and maybe move some toward bonds. Or I might just say all future investments I'm going to put in bonds so that I end up with shifting the percentages that way. Again, I'm not an investing professional, and I do want to note that rebalancing can result in a taxable event. So talk to your advisor before you do things, or know exactly what your strategy is. But you can do it, and you are capable. All of you are very smart people on this call, and you're capable of being in charge of your own investing, whether that be with an advisor or on your own. Okay, now I want to invite people to submit any questions that you have. Again, the way to submit questions is to go into the Q&A. You may need to go on the right-hand side of your Zoom toolbar, go into where it says more, the three dots, and click there, and you'll see Q&A, and you can drop a question in if you have one. I see one of the questions that was submitted ahead of time was about how to prioritize, because they are dealing with both federal and private student loan debt, as well as they don't really have any savings right now. So I think I covered that, but I will say that the credit card and the private student loan debt is going to be your priority. We do have YouTube videos specifically about student loan repayment, and you can get help with GreenPath for your own specific creating a path toward getting out of student loan debt. We typically advise the federal are a fixed interest rate and they are not tied to your credit. And if there's going to be any federal forgiveness or forbearance, if you refinance those, you're going to lose that. So watch those videos about if student loan is your primary concern, and or talk to a GreenPath counselor and get some free advice. So let's see. Okay. I think we have answered all of the existing questions, but again, if you have one, there's a couple more slides I want to go over, but if you have a question pop up, put it on, go into the Q&A on your Zoom toolbar, and then just put your question in. I want to just repeat, I am not an investment advisor, nor can I give tax advice or legal advice. So this is not meant to be that. And obviously we don't even know your individual situations in full. These are just illustrations. It's educational in nature. I want to mention, because a lot of people on this call are from the hospitals, from specifically Boston Children's Hospital. We have a new branch and it's quite close to you. And we have some special promotions just to let people know about the new branch. We just opened it August 12th. It has parking, which is unusual. This is our only full-time branch that has parking. It's at 1 Brigham Circle, so the supermarket is there. It's at 1614 Tremont Street is the actual street address. And until the end of September, so really only for another 20 days, we have several promotions. One of them is if you open your account, if you become a credit union member or open an account in the branch, you can get $100 cash bonus to open a checking account if you do it at that branch. You can also, if you're already a member, you can come in and get these little postcards and give one to your friend to refer them. If they bring it in with your name on it, you can get $100 and they can get $100 if they join the credit union. We also have a special CD rate, certificate of deposit rate. If you open a CD in the new branch, you can earn 4.5% APY, which is really pretty good for a 9-month CD. That's a very special promotional rate. And again, you have to open it in the branch. You can also get $100 if you open a new credit card at the branch, $100 credit. So all these have certain requirements. I see Ty put the link in the chat about that has all of the stipulations, but basically like it has to be an active account. You can't just open an account and close it again and get the $100. It has to be an active account. So we got a question into the chat. I'm not currently a member, but would like to join. Yay, we'd love to have you. What happens if in the future I'm no longer a BCH or Harvard employee? So if you're a member, you are a member for life, meaning you're eligible always once you've been a member once. So you can keep your account open. Even if you leave your job, that's fine. You can also, even if you in the past were a member and you closed it, you can reopen your account. So our members are members for life, and it's a great to use your eligibility while you're with us and get in on all the good things of being a part of a credit union. So thanks for that question. And that is really the end of our presentation. I do want to put the survey link up here. You will also get this in by email, so you don't have to write it down. But if you wanted to go right now and do the survey, we welcome your honest feedback because we like to know what we can do better and what resonated with you, what didn't, all that. So please, when you get the link or right now, fill out the survey. We appreciate you. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us and think about your financial wellness. And remember GreenPath too. I do want to say, like, if you do one thing, if you're feeling overwhelmed and you do one thing today, it really would not be a bad idea to have your one thing be making an appointment with Green Path for some financial counseling or joining the credit union, because you're going to then get a lot of financial education. So please don't leave overwhelmed. You can take one step toward your goals, and that'll be the basis for a lot more steps. So thank you, everybody, and have a good rest of your afternoon. And we are really pleased that you were able to join us.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Bye-bye.